also will be sharing a recording with each of you if you have coworkers or other folks that you would like to share it with after this session. And we love your questions. We feel that these sessions are really for you to share the information you find most helpful. So throughout the presentation, feel free to use that chat feature, ask your questions at any point. We will have some time for questions at the end of the session, but Chris is really going to be helping us out here with any questions that come in that might be things that we can answer as we're going through the slides. And that leads me to Chris Berry, who is the supervisor of our VSAC Resource Center. Chris is really helping pull this all together for us. He's going to be monitoring the questions and helping us with the slides. So thank you, Chris.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So happy that you're able to join us. So here's a little overview of what we have planned for our session this morning. So we will be introducing a lot of resources to you. There's a lot of hyperlinks that are going to be on the PowerPoint. We will do a little bit of, hopefully show you a little bit from the hyperlinks of some of the programs, but mostly hoping that you can follow up with things that might interest you and for yourself and your the people you work with. So we will touch on also a little bit about online learning, since that has become seemingly the primary type of learning that people are pursuing at this time. We will touch on funding, but this funding that's related to short-term training, and we'll just follow up with questions, and hopefully you can follow up if you have further questions. Okay, next slide. Thank you.
So one thing that we always like to cover in these sessions is just to let you know a little bit more about who we are. So Andrea and I work for this great program with the acronym EOC, which stands for the Educational Opportunity Center. It's a federally funded TRIO program that supports adults with reaching their educational and career goals. One of the basic criteria is we work with people who don't have a 4-year degree yet, which is a lot of different people. There are 7 of us around Vermont who work with adults, so we cover the state in pretty wide areas. Pre-COVID, we traveled a lot. One of the things we're most proud of is that 2/3 of the people that we serve are both first-generation college students and have low to moderate income. So we work with a lot of people who college is not something that has been, or any training program after high school is not something that they've had a lot of experience with, to help level the playing field and help them know how to pull it all together.
Just want to add one thing to that, that we're also very proud that this is the 30th anniversary of our program being in Vermont. So we will be having a big celebration later in the year for that.
Thank you, Andrea.
Milestone, yeah. Okay, so some of you and many of you probably do work closely with us in the regions around the state, but just to kind of reinforce what we offer and what we're continuing to offer people. Now we're doing it remotely, either with Zoom or other platforms or by phone. We assist people with career exploration. We don't do in-depth career counseling, but we certainly can help people focus in on what they would like to pursue, or at least a process for looking at that exploration. We help people identify what kinds of programs might fit their needs and talk with them a lot about how to choose programs, and we do a lot of referrals to other educational organizations and schools and colleges and training centers. We do a lot of work with financial aid process and also assist people with filling out forms and understanding the process. Oftentimes we refer people to other resources because sometimes the funding that we are able to identify is not enough to cover the total cost of some people's educational choices. And we work a lot with our partners. We do a lot of referrals back and forth. We get a lot of referrals from all of you, and we refer a lot of people back and forth. We work closely. We have kind of a team way of working. We, we like to make sure that we also follow up, and that we know anytime in the future people are welcome to contact us for more support. Okay, thank you. Next slide.
So before we really jump into what training programs are out there, we really like to cover the point that there are a lot of options, and it's important for the student to find the one that is the right fit for them. There are a lot of different pieces to think about in finding that right program, and we could do a whole presentation just on that. But I really like to cover what we call the big three, because when we look at these, the chances for success for that student are just so much greater. So just thinking about these three, number one that we often look at a lot is interests. Is it something that the student is truly interested in for training? For example, are they drawn to it? Is it a problem they want to solve? Is it something that they're curious about? There needs to be a certain level of interest. Another big area is skills. So when we're thinking about skills to do a training program, it could be the skills that a student currently has, or the skills that they have the capacity to develop. So for example, somebody may be a really hands-on learner, and that may be the type where they have the capacity to develop those hands-on skills. That is really a strength of theirs, and that's something that we'd really like to focus on when thinking of a training program. And then also really important to consider are the values of the individual, and comparing that to the values of the training program or the career that that individual is looking to get into. Values, like the others, are varied and can be really unique to that individual. So some examples of values might be they may have a real key that they need to earn a wage to be able to support their family. That may be one of their top values. It can also be other things. For example, it may be independence. It may be the ability to continue learning. It may be to be with a group of like-minded people. It could be flexibility. There are so many different types of values, like there are skills and interests. And that star in the middle is where we find that overlap, and where we see students have the overlap of either a training program or a career that hits those marks for them. That's where they're most likely to be successful, happy, reach their goals, and continue and reach what they're looking to achieve. So with all of the different training programs out there, it is just really so important to think of the individual and finding that right fit in order to be successful.
And one thing I would add about that is that this combination can change over people's lifetimes. So something that may have been a good fit for someone when they were younger may, as they are getting older, they may have some new interests and new values and may want to transition into a completely different direction. So sometimes it's fine-tuning what you have, and sometimes it's finding something completely new to explore.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Andrea.
Okay, next slide. Thank you. So we kind of divided this up into like little chunks. We start out with the idea of that someone may want to just start with taking a class, either to test out an interest or to get some skills or certification that they might need for a job that they'd like to do. For example, ServSafe is required for really anyone working in a food facility or a restaurant facility preparing food. So CPR is required in a lot of different areas. So sometimes there are, and certainly related to office skills, there are different types of computer related skills that people need to have, and they may just need one class to be eligible for a particular job or to continue working in the field that they're in. So we we start with a class and we might go from there. Second thing we kind of were thinking a lot about, which is really, this is short term. And when we say short term, we're thinking of something that might take even up to a couple of years, depending on if people are part-time or full-time, if it's an intensive program, or if it's one that has different components to it. So, so examples that we gave, but there are many others, are LNA training, which of course a lot of people we work with do start with LNA training. And also CDL is another one that definitely leads to licensure, and there's different levels of CDL training. So that's what we kind of, how we see short-term training. But certificate programs, and I borrowed this description from the CCB website. Really, certificate programs are usually a group of related courses. So oftentimes this is a credential that employers will recognize, and oftentimes the certificate, completing a certificate can be a stepping stone to further education, leading to either associate's or bachelor's degrees or beyond. So we see certificate programs as kind of an integrated group of courses over time. Anything you want to add, Suzie, on that?
No, I think you really hit the mark. It was interesting in putting together this presentation because the types of programs, the length of training, the levels of certification are, it feels more like a spectrum of them rather than things fitting neatly in certain boxes. So for example, an individual class may give somebody a license towards what they're looking for, or they may need to be going through a full certificate program. So it feels that what we were really trying to do in expressing them this way is to really show that there's a wide variety at different levels in a variety of occupations. And this can be a way to really help people wrap their head around a little bit more how what different boxes these might fit into.
Okay, next slide, please.
Another great form of short-term training we have here in Vermont, and is also available nationwide, is the Registered Apprenticeship Program. And I know we have a couple of our friends from the Vermont Department of Labor who've joined us today. So if they have some thoughts on this, they're very welcome to add as well. Registered Apprenticeship is a great opportunity for students in that it combines both classroom and on-the-job training. And it leads directly into work in that specific field. In Vermont, right now there are nearly 700 active apprenticeships that are underway in over 25 different occupations. So one of my favorite things to highlight about apprenticeship is while we have the traditional ones which are thriving here in Vermont, for example, plumbing and electrical are a couple of the big ones people think of, there are many different types of occupations that are considered apprenticeable. So there are formal systems in place for many different types of occupations, but it's also been really exciting to see some creative approaches to new types of occupations becoming apprenticeable. For example, I've seen quite a lot in the last year regarding phlebotomy apprenticeship, which is a really exciting way to help somebody combine both that classroom and again, that on-the-job experience to be able to feel really competent in that type of role. Here in Vermont, again, the Vermont Department of Labor is really the lead on this. And so we've included a couple of links. So the Department of Labor Apprenticeship Program is there with their director, Judy Barbeau, if you wanted to reach out to her directly for more information. But we have a couple of really strong partners in Vermont who are also really worth looking at for the types of apprenticeships and how they partner on these. So both Vermont Technical College and the Community College of Vermont have some additional information about apprenticeships on their website, which are really specific to different types of apprenticeships that they help support, which are really great to check out as well.
Thank you. Okay. Next slide, please. Thank Okay, so there's a term that's been thrown around a lot lately, which I think is a very useful term. And it's a popular way to look at kind of, the term is stackable credentials, and it's really thinking about things building upon, training, building upon training and experience. So a person can develop over time a series of credentials that can lead them, for further professional development and also for further being able to earn more money and access to other jobs. So what we did was we gave you an example, which is one that we can all see some, the visual here of a starting point that someone may have and some ways that they may expand either upward or outward or downward. They can add on to what they have. So someone, for example, could have been a volunteer EMT in their community, working on the ambulance in their community, and may have decided from that they really like working in the health field, and then go on for an licensed nursing assistant program and become licensed as an LNA. They now have a program in Vermont where you can also take an additional training and become a medication nurse's assistant. So you earn more money and you have more skills and you're able to do more things in your LNA role. But then there's also some other areas that people might expand into. Medical assisting, and there are formal programs in Vermont, but there's also informal on-the-job types of medical assisting programs. And people can focus more either on clinical or administrative or both. In many medical offices, people have to do both. So CCV, for example, does have certificates in clinical and medical and administrative medical assisting. But there's also other ways to get to the same goal. And then many people we find who are LNAs or medical assistants decide they really want to move on to becoming a licensed practical nurse, and then beyond that to registered nurse, and then maybe beyond that. But sometimes when people are involved in administrative health type of work, they might want to pursue medical billing and coding, which is another certification that is a national certification that can be pursued through either a formal program, or sometimes people can study on their own and still pass the exam. So this is just one example of how things can stack upon one another and expand the person's opportunities. I'm sure Suzie has, but I've worked with many people who have gone from one of these right up through 2 or 3 or 4 of these types of expanded career opportunities. And then phlebotomy, of course, can be something that will enhance many of these different aspects of healthcare. So anything you'd like to add, Suzie, to that?
Just one, I think, real benefit of thinking about stackable credentials and career pathways is that there's the opportunity for the student as well in a model such as this to start out with something like an LNA class prior to maybe getting into nursing school, to get a feel for really what some of the more challenging parts of the job might be. And that, so it's a shorter term training. They get hands-on experience with patient care, working in a clinical setting. And I've known a number of people who've taken that class who've loved being an LNA and decided it's their stopping point. Others who've decided, I'm ready for more, I want to move on. And then just as important, students who say, I've learned I really don't want to work in this setting. And they've decided on a different career path. And what a smart decision that is for them before they jump into nursing school, which is a big time and financial commitment. And so there are multiple benefits across the board for doing a path like this. One other thought that I'd really like to highlight here is some of the great partnerships that have led to stackable credentials and career pathways like this really being successful for students. A lot of my experience is down here in Southern Vermont, but we have such a great partnership between Vermont Technical College and Community College of Vermont, offering pieces all along this pathway in partnership with each other around either taking the LNA course, maybe they would start with the LNA course at Vermont Technical College and then go to CCV for prerequisites for nursing school, and then go back to Vermont Technical College for that nursing school. And with the advisors and the students feeling a really smooth flow between the different programs to be able to make the connections to make it work. So that's been a positive step I've seen down here in Southern Vermont. All right, next slide, please. So speaking of Community College of Vermont, we're going to be going through some slides here now where we're going to be talking about some specific training programs. One of our struggles in putting together this presentation is really how many programs are out there, how to categorize them. So we've realized we can't tell you every program, but we can tell you about a lot of them, and we can also give you the tools that you need to find more. So that's our goal here. So we're going to be hitting on some of the bigger training providers and then some resources to find other training programs that are out there. So, you know, I'm really excited for the opportunities through Community College of Vermont here. You can see here, this is a comprehensive list of different certificate programs that the college offers. So there are 18. This is a bigger list than last year. It's a growing set of offerings that the college offers. And even before COVID put so much online, already 14 of these programs were available to be completed fully online for students. So CCV has had this great ability to see students where they are in life around needing flexibility, around where and when they can complete classes. And so the certificates really match that model. It's a diverse group of certificates. You'll see there's office-focused, medical-related, you know, and even funeral director, which is the only program and an exciting new program in Vermont in a very focused field. So the diversity at CCV is pretty exciting. Chris, I'm wondering if we could click on the bookkeeping one just to show people an example of what that looks like. So like on all of our slides, we have a lot of hyperlinks. We're hoping that this presentation will become a tool that you can use to quickly access different training programs and resources throughout Vermont. So for example, if you were to click on this bookkeeping one for CCV, they have detailed information on their website. So you can read about the program. If you were to scroll down, you'll see how many credits and a list of classes that then you can click on and see detailed information about each of those classes and what you will learn. So the depth of information available is really exciting for students or for people who are helping them with finding the program that's the right fit. So yes, so there's some programs at CCV that we're pretty excited about. Andrea, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something about bookkeeping in general also, because this is a certificate, but there's also a few other classes that one could take at CCV that are online that not as many as this, that could lead to being ready and prepared to take a national certification exam in bookkeeping. So there's actually 4 classes that are necessary in order to do that. But you know, I think all of these kinds of things, you know, whether you decide to go for the shorter version, and then there's even a shorter way to get there. There's other types of things we're going to talk about a little bit more online. So, you know, but I think the national certification is something that is of value that can come out of this kind of a program. So, and can also lead to self-employment, which is a whole other area of, you know, many of our students are interested in eventual self-employment. Okay.
Great, thanks, Andrea. All right, so could we have the next slide, Chris? Thanks.
Yeah. So another of the state colleges that we're highlighting here because they have a tremendous variety of offerings in their continuing education and workforce development department, also called CEWD, Office of Continuing Education and Workforce Development. So there's an acronym. And So these are non-credit related programs. Many of them are offered online and many are not offered online. So right now, you know, there's a variety of things that are going on with how these programs are being offered. I thought that, you know, within any of the, for example, in healthcare, through the healthcare link, people often are taking the phlebotomy class through VTC Continuing Ed, and they're taking it at a local hospital, but it is through Vermont Technical College Continuing Ed. So, but then there's also a lot of classes we're going to talk more about later from a program called Ed2Go. So, and many of them are also administered through VTC, and we'll explain that a little bit more after. But I thought we'd just click on green trainings, if you would, Chris, just to give some examples of the kinds of things that are available, though right now some of them are not as available because many of them are more hands-on. But if we just scroll down a little bit. So here's an example, the BPI training and certification. So it's a national standards development organization. So people who are learning energy efficiency and weatherization. On the bottom, you can see some other trainings, including HVAC and LEED. Do you want to click on LEED, Green Associate, Chris? So here's, let's see what that tells us. So a lot of these have to do with green building and design, which is also, you know, something that the Vermont Technical College is a leader in. But there's also a lot of trainings, which some are not available right now, but will be, we hope, in the future, that have to do with solar, working with solar training and that kind of thing. So we can go back to the original slide of VTC, if that would be okay. Yeah. So, you know, the green trainings are very popular, and hopefully there'll be more as people are back in person again. There's a lot that has to do with agriculture and food systems, also through VTC. So we encourage you to, you know, look at some of these links and read some about some of these programs. The Career and Technical Teacher Education Program is interesting, and that's kind of an apprenticeship program, but we're not going to really get into that right now. So we'll talk about Ed2Go in the next slide. So we can move on now.
All right, so this is our final slide that's highlighting short-term training and certificate programs that are available through colleges in Vermont. So we have, for a small state, we still do have quite a few colleges. Many of them offer other trainings, but some of them do require people to have a college degree, so, or to be enrolled in a degree program at their college to participate in other training they have available. These programs do not, or at least have some programs where you don't need to be an enrolled college student or have a college degree yet. So one thing that I was really excited about in doing research for this presentation was I knew of a lot of programs out there, but doing the research and looking again, it's really quite incredible how these programs have grown in the last year or two. In clicking these links and adding them in here, we found just such a diverse group of trainings. So again, we could spend a presentation just focusing on what's available here, but I would really just instead like to encourage you all to take some time. If you haven't looked at these in a while, the University of Vermont Continuing and Distance Education portion of their website has a wide variety of trainings available for students. Some really unique ones only available through them. And just really exciting to look through. The Northern Vermont University campuses offer some great continuing education opportunities as well. And in the last couple of years, their online offerings have really blossomed. Castleton as well offers some great certificate programs, really worth looking into. And I was excited to see that St. Michael's College as well offers some programs. So each different, unique, structured different ways, really worth looking at. And you'll see that there are two on this slide for Champlain College because they actually have two different arms which are offering continuing education and short-term training opportunities for students. So they have what I consider kind of that classic set through this first link here, the Champlain College online certificate programs. But Chris, if you could click on the last one in the list, the Champlain College Centers for Experience. So I think this is actually a little bit down the rabbit hole. This is a focus area within there. Some really unique trainings, but this is a great example. They have a Center for Mediation and Dialogue, which offers some great mediation training, working with different stakeholders, working with people, really focusing on this, which I hadn't realized was here. It was a really great find. But yeah, if we go out one level.
Can I just say one thing about the mediation?
Sure.
Many of you who've been around for a really long time remember Woodbury College, which was kind of the center, not only for the state, but really for New England for teaching mediation and conflict management. And Champlain College absorbed their program, so they have created a program that's kind of a next generation from what had really started at Woodbury College.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Andrea. I know Chris has clicked back out to the main page for the Centers of Experience at Champlain. And this just gives you a great idea. Here's, again, is the Center for Mediation and Dialogue. But they have a Center for Publishing, a Center for Financial Literacy, Service and Sustainability, some really unique offerings, again, that are super exciting, really worth exploring. The variety, again, of programs is really something. So I encourage you all to look a little deeper to see what's available.
I just wanted to say one more thing, just a couple of interesting things. UVM, people I've worked with over the years, sometimes they have an area of interest that I really don't know about, and then we find out who has it. And one woman that I'm working with who's now doing the funeral director apprenticeship through CCV took her training to be an end-of-life doula through the UVM continuing education. And building on that, she now decided that she really wants to become a funeral director. And she's kind of combining all those things. Other things that UVM offers, they also have a certificate in gerontology, and you don't have to have a degree to have that certificate. So people who are interested in working with elderly. They do have a lot of food-related programs as well, and they have artisan cheese making through UVM, which I think is really great.
I love that one. That's exciting. Yeah,
just
very Vermont.
Just a few others I wanted to highlight. St. Mike's College does have a certificate in emergency management, and it is a certificate. And the other thing through Champlain that I was going to mention, I worked with someone recently, and his field is supply chain management, which I had never really heard of before. And Champlain has a certificate in supply chain management. So there's some very, not as common, not as familiar to us types of things that are available. Okay, so anything else, Susie, about this?
No, that's great. Thanks, Andrea. I really love that highlighting of just how much is out there. It's amazing. And, the perspective from Southern Vermont in the past, some of these used to feel far away. For example, these great programs at UVM, sometimes it was a challenge for students to travel and access those. One of the benefits currently, there's a lot of challenges, but we have students who can now access these programs. So many have moved online and are accessible, and it's really exciting. So what used to feel like a faraway program now can really feel like it's in our backyard, which I really appreciate.
Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. So, so there are 16 adult career and technical education centers around the state, and we know that you know, many of these are daytime programs that are primarily accessed by students who are currently in high school. However, I do have an adult student now who is at the Central Vermont Career Center pursuing cosmetology in the daytime program because they had an opening, and if an adult, if they have an opening, an adult can apply and can pay to be in the daytime program as well. If an adult does not have a high school diploma, they can actually go for free, even if they have a GED. So that's always good to know. So the centers around the state are offering a tremendous amount of variety of different programs. We thought we would just highlight one of them as an example, Stafford Technical Center, just to show you the website. Encourage, you know, some of the centers offer things that other centers don't offer. So, you know, it depends on whether it's online or whether it's accessible. But if you want to just scroll down a little bit. The yellow is a little hard to see, I think, but you can see, oh, thank you. That's great, Chris. Thank you. So you can just see the amazing variety of different areas that their programs are offered in, including the one I mentioned before, the medication nurse assistant, which is not offered everywhere, but is definitely offered there. So they have a great variety of offerings, and all the centers have their own great variety of offerings. So we encourage you to think about those as options as well when you're working with people, and we definitely steer people in this direction whenever it seems appropriate. And I'm thinking, just for the interest of time, Susie, I was just checking our time a little. Maybe we should, if you want to add something, but I didn't want to get into this too much. Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, just one thought is, you know, with the adult tech and career centers around the state, there's a lot of variety. They can be quite different around the state. Some offer more programs that are for high school age students, and others have more robust programs in the evening and weekends that may serve adults specifically. And so again, we have the slide where you can click the link and you can dive a little more deeply. Again, during COVID as well, things are a little bit different at centers, those that specialized in the hands-on training programs. But we are seeing some creative approaches right now. So for example, up in Springfield, they have an EMT course that is still coming up this fall that is focused on adult learners. And I'm sure there's so much more around the state, but there is some great information on the internet if you click these links to find out more. Or we're always helpful with you know, if you're happy to help you if you're looking for some help in finding specific programs. We love to do that. So next slide, please. So yes, so there are, again, like I said earlier, it's hard to be able to talk about every program out there. There are so many. Google can help you, but there are also lists that can help you with finding some other programs as well. One of my go-to lists is the eligible training provider list that the Vermont Department of Labor puts together and maintains. So it's part of their Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act program, or WIOA, where they keep this list and they vet programs to make sure that they meet certain basic criteria for quality and for positive outcomes for students. So again, this is hyperlinked. They keep the list up to date, and if you were to click on that link, you would see 34 pages of training programs. One thing that I really like about that list is that it is alphabetized by the school, so it's pretty easy to sort through. It lists all of the different credentials and trainings that the school offers. It offers pricing information, length of training, and contact information. So it's a robust list. You will find training providers on there that we've already talked about in this presentation, but you'll also see a lot of unique, small, diverse, specialized training programs as well. So it can be a great way to find other providers out there. Also, for commercial driver training throughout Vermont, there are a number of different programs. The Vermont Department of Motor Vehicles, through their website, maintains a list of those programs. Also through their website, they have some great study materials for students. They spell out the step-by-step process for students. So they have a really great set of information that's worth checking out. Ed2Go is one that we often really like to highlight. Andrea mentioned it earlier, and I think you may have seen a little bit of Ed2Go mentioned in a couple of the sites that we went to see, because Ed2Go is online training through the Ed2Go portal, which can be accessed straight by going to Ed2Go or through a variety of different training providers. So for example, Vermont Technical College offers Ed2Go trainings. Our career and technical education centers around the state also connect with Ed2Go. And there literally are hundreds of classes for a lower price that are comprehensive and really exciting. So one thing I'm really excited, so I've been thinking personally about taking a sign language class for a number of years and never gotten around to it. I just started one a week ago through Ed2Go, an ASL 1 class, and it's my first Ed2Go class, and it is really exciting, and it is through connecting through Vermont Technical College. So it can be for personal enrichment. It can be to prepare yourself to be ready to go into a certificate program. It can be a lot of different things. You may have noticed a couple of other online training resources throughout the slides that I think are really worth connecting as well. Knowledge Wave is a big provider that we see people connect with. MedCerts is also full online training. I know that through the Vermont Department of Labor's WIOA training provider list, you can see a lot of those different online training programs listed as well that are worth checking out. And finally, the universal classes is a great place to find training. Over 500 free online courses are available. So normally, if you were to go straight to, say, the Universal Classes website, there would be a fee for each of the classes or a fee to purchase a subscription. It's exciting here in Vermont. Our system of libraries has already purchased that subscription. So as a Vermont library card owner, you can go into your local library's website, and you can take universal classes for free by putting in your library card number. They are really exciting. Again, like I keep saying, the diversity, the opportunities, the number of different classes. One thing that I really love to highlight about the universal classes is maybe you're thinking about going into an online training program with one of our local colleges. Maybe you're thinking about jumping into an Ed2Go class that might have a cost associated with it. A great way to try out a class, to get used to online learning if you've never done that before, is to try one of the free ones through Universal Classes. You can work out some of the bugs. You can get used to working in an online platform and learning that way and see if it's a great fit for you before making that financial investment. So it's both for information and for affordability. It's a great option. All right, next slide. And I'm sorry, Andrea, I feel like I can keep talking here. It is 10:47, so I think we're going to go through these last few slides, and we do want to make sure that there's some time for your questions as well.
So we just thought it would be useful, just as a reminder, to think things that people should really be thinking about and hopefully keep in their mind if they are choosing to pursue online learning. More and more people have gotten more kind of thrown in the deep end in the last 6 months, and finding that they actually like it. But I think that, as Suzie was saying, sometimes a way to really know what it's like before risking anything, either, you know, just to try something like universal class and just get used to it that way. So I think, you know, deciding which online program, which providers you might want to pursue. Some of the, you know, we're trying to stay within Vermont as much as possible, ones that either exist in Vermont or are administered through Vermont, because then we know that they're dependable and safe, and you know, they're vetted in some way. It's important for people to know what kind of technology they need in order to do online learning. Depending on what someone is studying, there may be different levels of technology that may be required, and there's a cost involved in that. And also, you know, a lot of places on the internet are promising a lot of things to a lot of people. So I think, you know, anything that someone's considering, if it's not Vermont based, really, it's good to really look into accreditation and see if what they're offering as a credential is really a valid credential being offered. So I'm not going to say more about that for now, but I just want to, you know, highlight that this is important to look at all these components when making a choice about that. Okay, next slide.
So we can't talk about training without thinking about the cost. And again, we have other presentations which focus on financial aid for students, but we just want to highlight some of the great financial aid resources that are out there for students. And so first we want to speak about the VSAC resources. So these are the three primary resources that we help students with related to financial aid for training such as the ones we're speaking about. But I would just like to say that there are sometimes other creative resources that we're able to specifically help out with. So the Vermont grant, the Vermont Advancement Grant, which was formerly known as the non-degree grant, is really popular. It helps Vermonters enhance their job skills and improve their employability. And it helps with students for this current academic year with up to $3,000 if they qualify toward their training program. It's an excellent resource, and we love to help students apply for this. We also have this great Curtis Credential of Value, or COV, training scholarship. Students must be working with a VSAC counselor to be nominated for this scholarship and meet some other criteria. But if they qualify, this can cover between $500 and $1,500 towards the cost of that training program. Another great resource that we're really excited about. Some of the training programs we're speaking about will qualify for the Vermont grant as well. So programs that qualify for what we call Title IV or more traditional college funding. Sometimes it can get a little complicated thinking about, well, do I go for this grant or that grant? Which is the best option for me? And again, that can be a deeper conversation. So what we encourage people to do is just work with one of us. We will look at your situation, we'll look at the training programs that you're considering, and we will help you find the right path to get the most financial aid that you might be able to qualify for to help make that training a reality. So this is intended to give you a good brief on some of those resources, but again, we'll help you with the nitty-gritty to make it all come together. Next slide, please.
And we just thought we would highlight some of the partners who we work with statewide, who also have funding available depending on the student's eligibility and what they're pursuing. But we often work closely with Department of Labor with their WIOA program, which we mentioned before, and oftentimes they can assist with gaps in covering tuition, but also in other expenses related to the educational pursuit for the student. We also work closely with Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, and many times they have some resources available as well, oftentimes to cover uncovered expenses, usually things like books and sometimes technology. If a student has been a veteran or is currently in the military, we always encourage them to make sure they're aware of and accessing any of the resources that the Veterans Administration may have for them. Many of our participants also are in the Reach Up program around the state, and Reach Up has a lot of resources to help students as well. So we work closely with all our partners, and we refer back and forth, and we work as a team. We try to make sure that you know, we can shore up whatever is needed with whatever is possible. And then locally, there's many other you know, kind of organizations that may not be available statewide, but that people work with that sometimes have resources available of different types, different pots of money, different grants, scholarships, that kind of thing. So I'll just give an example. The Community Kitchen of Vermont, you know, Community Kitchen Academy, which has training in Barre and in Burlington. They also have some funding available through the food bank, the Vermont Food Bank, and so they also can supplement what's available for students. And so I think that's probably it for anything you wanted to add in additional resources.
No, I think just, you know, working with us around, you know, each community is unique with the resources, which is why we wanted to add that there, that there are some great other small opportunities that can be great resources for students.
Okay, do we want to?
Yeah, so we have about 6 minutes left, and we really want to make sure that we're answering your questions, because that's what this is for, is to make sure that you have the resources you need. So if you have questions, if you could put them in the chat for us, that would be wonderful. We'd love to hear from you. I'm just going to take a little peek in the chat to see if we have any that have grown so far in here. And we do have one that came in just wondering about a copy of the presentation. And I think it was answered, but I'll just say it out loud. Yes, we'll be sharing both a link to this video, and we'll be sharing the PowerPoint with you all in a follow-up email after the training.
Okay, should we move on and see if more questions come in?
That sounds great. So yeah, again, feel free to put in those questions in our last couple minutes if you have them. So as many of you know, we've been doing this series of Zoom room presentations, and we'd just like for you to know we've created an archive of the videos of the past presentations on our YouTube channel. So there's a link here that will bring you there, and you can see the different presentations if you're interested. We've had some really great ones, and I'm super excited for those that we still have coming up. So here are the next few that we've listed. Next week, we have one which is resources for foster youth. That's going to be a panel discussion. So some of them are presentations like this, others are more panels where people are sharing information, and that one will be a panel, and that one is going to be facilitated by myself and also Marty Kingsley, which really a great topic to cover. October 6th, we have another really great one coming up, resources for veterans. I hope you all can join us. It's an important topic, and sometimes it can feel a little complicated getting those resources together for the veterans that we work with, and this should cover a lot of great opportunities for people. And then finally, October 13th, interested in healthcare, ? So this will really focus and drill down on those healthcare occupations, pathways, resources, really take a nice deep dive into that topic, which should be really valuable as well. Okay. And if we could get to the next slide, please.
Yeah. So this is actually our last slide, and we just wanted to remind you about where we are located around the state, and depending on your region, you can certainly refer people to us. They can contact us by email. You can always contact us by email, or they definitely can call the toll-free number. There will be someone always available to talk with them and refer them to one of us, or schedule them in our calendars. So just want to Thank you all for working so closely with us, and we value our partnerships very much, and we're very pleased that you were able to join us today. Do you have anything else you want to add, Suzie?
Yeah, I'm just really excited you all could join us today. Thank you. And, you know, many of the people there, we know we've worked with you, a few new faces as well. We're so excited you could join us today, and we hope to see you both, you know, as we're connecting to support people with reaching their career goals, but also through future Zoom rooms. So thank you.
Yeah, have a good rest of your beautiful September day.